Hi everyone, this is my fresh new, hi Janet, this is my fresh new account, and this account is going to be 100% in English. Right? So my name is Anna Jazdova, and I am a fermenter for over 12 years now, and I also teach fermentation here in London. I live in London, UK, live classes, and as well as online classes in two languages, Russian and English. So today I decided to, well, we were supposed to be making this wonderful ferment together with my nutritionist friend, who is also based here in North London, but she could not do it today. So we are going to postpone, and I thought yesterday, well, why postpone? I can just do it now and then do it together with her if she, or when she decides to, which she will be able to later. In any case, you have your list of ingredients, and here in the description I will leave the list of ingredients as well. Actually, this ferment is I learned about this ferment from Sandor Katz. He is a fermentation revivalist. He's fermenting and traveling around the world, teaching and learning for over 25 years now. And his recent book, Fermentation Journeys, is about exactly that thing. He's traveling and he's learning different things, recipes, and he is so his book is more like place where he saves those rare, some of them almost forgotten fermentation recipes from around the world. And this one is Chinese recipe for pickled veg. Variants here are very wide. You can do you can use any veg you have, really. I'm not going to make a very big batch. I'm just going to use 1 liter jar. The jar can be any jar. Try not to use anything plastic with fermentation. I might cover that topic a little bit later on a post. I'm using IKEA glass jar, 1 liter, and I'm going to sterilize it. I'm going to put some water to boil, and I'm going to sterilize my jar. Good practice to do it every time, so you kind of neutralize the environment in here, and then introduce the environment that you that is hospitable and that is good for the bacteria that you want to grow, right? So obviously our role as fermenters is I'm going to, if you have, by the way, before I start, if you have a jar like this, this is actually similar what we're going to do today. If you have a jar like this with a screw top, it's fine. You can use that as well. You can reuse, upscale, recycle your jars till basically they break, right? If you're sterilizing a jar like that, do sterilize the jar itself and the lid also. Yeah. I'm going to show this a little bit later. So while the water is boiling, I wanted to say a few words about our role as fermenters, right? So even if you're just starting or you're already on a journey of fermentation, it's important to understand that generally fermentation is controlled process where, well, it's not always controlled, but in our case it is, where different microorganisms break down carbohydrates, sugars, and generally the substrate that we give them, the food that we give them, in anaerobic environment usually, not always, and thus creating energy for their own life cycle. At the same time, there are lots of metabolites, postbiotics, products of products of fermentation, byproducts that are really good for us. Anyways, I'm not going to go into health today, but I wanted to say that as fermenters, our role is to create that environment, that correct environment where the microorganisms that we want are going to grow and create something delicious rather than spoil and rot it, right? Because we are going to rely, in terms of bacteria and different microorganisms, we are going to rely on the fresh produce that we have, right? So here on a cabbage, this is Savoy cabbage I'm using. It can be any cabbage. It doesn't have to be cabbage. It can be just, you know, something cruciferous. This cabbage already has good bacteria, bad bacteria, different microorganisms, right? So if we just chop it or just leave it as is on the kitchen table, like, I don't know, few weeks, a couple of months, this is going to start getting like black spots, slime, mold, and it's going to rot, and that's going to be compost basically. Yeah, so this is a spoiled product in terms of from our perspective, so we can't eat that. If we create correct environment, so basically we creating this, not creating, but passively just leaving the cabbage in this environment, we encourage the growth of the pathogens, yeah, in terms of our health. So this is boiled. I'm going to just sterilize my jar in a sink. Come back to you in a second. There you go. And you can swish the hot liquid around. Try to get all the sides, all the walls of the jar. And just leave the jar upside down so it drips, it drains. Yeah, do not clean the jar with anything inside. Yeah, just either shake it or just let it drip upside down on the dryer. That's what I've done. So leaving the cabbage like this is the environment with the oxygen, yeah, with the food, the cabbage, because cabbage has around 4% of sugar. So with sugars, carbohydrates, pathogens started doing their job. So it's a perfect environment for them. So they started propagating, killing, obviously, good bacteria. If we create the correct environment, which we're going to do now, and I'm going to go over it a bit more, we are encouraging a good bacteria that are present here. Thus, they are creating something delicious, something edible, something nutritious for us. So let's start doing that. So I have, let me just do this so you can see better. Right, so I have garlic, a bit of ginger. This is it. So for 1 liter jar, you need probably around, again, how much of everything you put and what sort of combination of veg it is, it's up to you. Yeah, I have a carrot, I have a broccoli, I have Savoy cabbage and some radishes. It can be a big mooly radish, it can be something else. You know, I have an onion as well, a garlic. So I'm going to try to single out. I think you fell in my cat's food. Yes. Anyways, I'm going to use 3, 4, 5. I like garlic, so I'm going to use a little bit more. 5 garlic cloves. Going to use this little knob of ginger. And then in terms of ingredients, the rest of the ingredients, as much as will fit into my jar, basically. So with this recipe is actually brined vegetables. Yeah, it's a very, very probably in terms of preserving and fermenting vegetables, probably the simplest recipe, because what you need is just some vegetables, some spices, if you like, and then you need to, use some brine. So brine is basically clean water and some salt. That's it. In this particular recipe, you can use sugar as well, or some other sweetener if you like, just a bit. I am probably going to use something. I will show you that later. And that's it. And you leave that submerged under brine, because remember, fermentation happens in anaerobic environment without oxygen. So you leave that to ferment. What you will see is bubbles. Yeah, we are going to, it will be something similar to this. You are going to, amazing smell. You are going to see bubbles, and the rest, what else you're gonna see, I'm gonna show you. Anyways, I'm going to take my jar straight away. And as we go, I'm going to explain the nuances and the small details that are important in this case, right? So, this is our 1 liter jar. I'm going to put it in here. We're going to be putting things straight into it. I'm going to actually start explaining that there are a few things. Remember, we need to, as fermenters, we need to create perfect environment here, right? Correct environment. So one of the conditions for that environment is good quality ingredients. So basically, if your ingredients started rotting already, that's not a good sign. That means that pathogenic bacteria is overgrowing already, and how this ferment is going to go, it's unpredictable. Most probably, it's not going to be that great. So we are chopping everything in quite big chunks. So these radishes, I'm going to probably just half them, and that's it. With cabbage, let's see. These are going to be just florets. Yeah, so it's going to be pretty. With cabbage, I'm going to probably do something like this. So almost half, and then I chop it into such quite big chunks, right? I doubt that a lot will fit inside. I'm going to start putting things in. You can make it with layers and stuff, yeah? So the jar is not that great, so not a lot of the ingredients is going to fit, but I want to fit all of them just a bit, yeah, in small quantities. So it looks pretty. So radish just in half. That's it. All right. Gonna choose the bigger ones. If you have not a radish but something bigger, you can chop it like smaller. Something similar. Yeah, maybe a bit bigger. See for yourselves. Basically, it's more than bite size. It's quite big chunks. Okay. I'm going to peel my, where is it? There it is. I'm going to peel the carrot. Probably not going to use the whole carrot, I'm thinking. I mean, obviously, due to the size, quite large size chunks, I'm using carrot. Yep, good. Due to large chunks, obviously, when it's traditionally made in China, it's made like in 5-liter jars, 6-liter jars, quite big, right? Plus, this is a very, it's not just brined veg. It's a very nice, very good, very useful technique behind it. So basically, when we create the brine, we are going to reuse. So we're going to eat the vegetables eventually, and we're going to reuse the brine over and over and over again. So basically indefinitely, right? The only thing that from time to time you are going to have to because obviously vegetables will absorb the salt and spices, so you will have to replenish the salt and spices, more, maybe water, a little bit of water as well, but we are going to get to that. So carrots, something like this, chunks, not too big. Cabbages. Right, so I want to put this as well, and I already have not much space. We are not filling it up to the brim, right? So we are trying to leave some space, a couple of centimeters from the top. Okay, I'm gonna just use maybe smaller florets, just whole florets. And maybe one more, a couple more. Couple more, plus don't forget, probably onion is not gonna go inside. I'll leave it for the next time. Remember, we also have some garlic and ginger. My ginger is organic. I'm not going to bother cleaning it. I'm not going to eat it. This is not for eating. This is for flavor. So I'm just going to slice it. Like this. If you like it very ginger, you can put a bit more. Yeah, I mean, with the course, during the course of this fermentation and of this ferment, really, at some point you will realize, well, actually ginger was a bit too much, maybe take it out. Or didn't have enough, put some more. Yeah, this is up to you how much of everything you want. Probably 5 cloves, a bit much. So mostly we'll use probably 3. And also we have some spices. If you have fresh chilies, now is the time to put the chilies. You can just half them. If you like this to be a bit more mild, put a bit obviously less and clean the seeds. If you're okay with spices, then just put the whole thing. But do, if the depending on the size of pepper, yeah, I mean, pepper is quite soft, and it's not as hard as, for example, carrots. So if pepper is like this, you can just chop it in half. Garlic, I'm going to chop them. I have small cloves, but I am going to still chop them in half. Although, again, garlic is there for spices. It's there for the flavor, not really for eating. So I'm just going to half it. And another one. There you go. This, you can take this out, for example, right now, then mix it in a bowl and put it back in if you don't want layers, but you want everything mixed up. That's an option as well. What else we need? I have dried chilies. They are very spicy, and I'm going to just very small ones. I'm going to put a couple. I'm sure it will be enough because these are very, very chilly. I think there's a bird eye or something like that. Then, I mean, the rest of the spices is really up to you, yeah? It was saying red Sichuan peppercorns. I don't have red peppercorns, but I have this mixed peppercorns. So it was teaspoon of peppercorns. I'm just going to use these, where's my teaspoon? It can be just normal teaspoon. It can be just using your eye calculation. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to use my measuring spoons because I like them. And I have like 5 sets there. Yeah, so I'm using that. If you feel like, oh, maybe a little bit more, why not? Actually, I'm going to also probably add allspice. I really fancy allspice in these sort of like larger corns. So probably half a teaspoon. Why not? I have black cardamom here as well. Not green cardamom, black. Yeah, black cardamom is very different by taste. So one black cardamom is enough. It looks like this. If you don't have any, that's fine. It's very strange. Can't explain. Very strange flavor. Very interesting. And finally, when we pack, yeah, we are leaving a couple of centimeters from the top, right? It's very pretty already. And now we need to create the brine. Different ways to create the brine. The brine salt percent would be around from, generally by taste, go by taste, yeah, but I would say from 1.5% of salt to 2% of salt, or maybe a little bit more per volume of water. As with the rest of the ingredients, the quality of water is important as well. It should be clean drinking water, preferably filtered, hopefully not non-chlorinated. If the chlorinated water from the top is the only option for you, please make sure to at least dechlorinate it. Do Google it. There's a lot of information how to do that. What I'm going to do is the same pertains the salt. I have coarse sea salt. I think it's French, from French coast. Try not to use the table salt because it's not, it's just two minerals, has some anti-caking agents that we really don't want in our food and in our body. And natural, good quality sea salt, unrefined sea salt, or Himalayan salt, or maybe some lake salt, something naturally occurring, yeah, and unrefined, would have over 80 different minerals that are really healthy for us. By comparison, our blood has around 84, I think, or 86 different minerals, and we need those minerals for our for our health. In this instance, we would need scale. But even if you don't have scale, it's okay. You can use just taste. So what I'm gonna do is fill my jar with just water for now. So water, and then later brine, because we're going to add salt to the water, should cover these ingredients. They should be under brine. I have a I think I have weights. I have glass weights. I'm not sure if I have any spare. Oh wait, I didn't calculate. So this is about 570 gram. 570 gram. I didn't get my calculator. You need to times 1.5 times the percent divided by 100. Right, basically that's what it is. So this is about 10 gram for me. Salt. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to take bowl. I'm going to pour off my water into the bowl. And we don't need this anymore. Well, actually, we do need this, or we can use the measuring spoon. Okay. Just going to calculate just in case. I'm not really good with numbers, so please forgive me. Times 1.8. Yeah. So 10. For me, it's here 10 gram. 10 gram is a bit less than It's about 2 teaspoons if you are using measuring spoons. But I'm just going to weigh it out on the scale, which is fine. Should be like this, and a bit here. If you use just tiny bit less, just tiny bit more, that's not a problem. Yeah, the percentage ranges from 1.5 to about 2.1 maybe percent. Yeah, it's really up to you. Should be nice, tasty to taste, basically. I'm going to use now we need to dissolve properly the salt. And I was going to show you something that I might add. This is my ferment garlic in honey. This is about probably a year. Yeah, this is around a year old at room temperature. This is one ferment, well, one of the ferments that does not require refrigeration. And this one can stay for at least 2-3 years. Garlic becomes really dark. And sort of like at the end the taste becomes sort of like candied. The same with honey. Honey becomes very liquid because garlic obviously releases the juices and becomes really dark. So when I started, everything was much lighter and it wasn't like this, and the taste develops dramatically. So for this ferment, minimum fermentation time at room temperature is at least a month. So this one is more than a month. So I might add, and mind you, this is a fermented food, fermented thing. So it will act as a starter as well if you add it anywhere, right? We don't need a starter here because we rely on the native bacteria and yeasts and other microorganisms of the raw vegetables. But if you want to, you can add something as a starter. I will probably add, I feel like adding, generally when I make my recipes, I like to be creative and add things as I go, basically, if I feel like. I feel like adding a garlic, to be honest with you. This is how, wait. Can't fish it out. This is a garlic, that's how garlic looks. Just going to add it here. And probably a little teaspoon of honey. You don't have to. It can be, if you're using sweetener, I would say probably half a tablespoon of honey or whatever other sweetener you're using. Obviously, I don't mean artificial sweeteners, yeah, natural sweeteners. Right, so I continue dissolving. It's important to dissolve the salt. Brine can be done in a way that, especially if you approximately know the amount that you will need, you can just make, for example, 1 liter, just without measuring it with the jar. Just add like in one liter, dissolve the salt, the needed amount, and then pour over your ingredients, filling up the jar. The rest you can discard. But I don't like wasting things, so this is the method I prefer. Make sure to dissolve the salt properly, as I was saying before. I have some on the sides. I think mine is done. Right, so here we go. By the way, all the spices can go at the bottom. It's up to you, yeah. And the garlic. Fantastic. This is what I have. Everything. So basically, your brine should be covering the vegetables. Obviously, they will be floating. I'm going to tell you what to do about that. And there still should be left at least, you see, I have like a centimeter, half an inch from the top of the jar. Best to leave a little bit more, 2-3 centimeters, because there will be a lot of activities in the first couple of days, which I will explain in a minute. So let me check if I've got any weights. This one is empty. I might have here, but I fear that it will be too heavy and all my liquid is gonna come out. That's what I'm thinking. I have glass. Show you the I bought mine on Amazon. It has 2 sizes. Very, very useful thing. Highly recommend. Make sure if you buy something like that, make sure it has a grip, because sometimes it's impossible to get it out if you don't have a grip. So this is just about, no problem, I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to use this. And I will show you what to do if you don't have the weight. I mean, the weight can be like a pebble, or maybe a smaller jar that you can press with. Obviously not in this case because it will just overflow, but like smaller jar, or anything that you think will, you know, will suit here. Might do this, so it's easier for me to kind of like press it down. So basically what we're gonna do now, this is how it looks. A bit too much, yeah. So again, ideally you would have ingredients coming up to here, not to here as mine, but even this is still fine. So I'm gonna close this. Probably at first I'm not gonna use the washer, because what will happen now, we're going to close the jar, not too tight. If it's a screw top, don't screw it too tight. Yeah, here we have some oxygen coming in. So basically what happens now, so we leave this, a good idea to mark this. If you used different amount, like whatever amount of whatever vegetables you use, maybe a good idea to write them down if it's a nice combination, or really doesn't really matter, but especially the spices, good idea, so you can replenish, so use the same type of spices. Anyways, it's up to you, yeah, but a good idea when you're experimenting to write down your experiments, so you can make them again. Basically this will live at room temperature, not in the fridge, away from direct sun rays. We don't want, so basically the windowsill is not a good place to put this, right? So, but you also don't need to put it in any cupboards or any dark place or cover it with anything. You don't have to do that. I'm just gonna leave mine here. So this one, I'll show you what. I'm gonna leave it here on the counter, somewhere where you are not going to forget about it. That's important, right? So what we're gonna do, let me just drink my water a bit. What we're gonna do is, now that we created the correct environment, the right environment in this jar, our role now is, basically magical bacteria starts doing their magic. Our role is to observe and make sure that the correct environment stays the same. Yeah. So what happens? We are looking forward to some bubbles on the surface. I don't know if you can see here, but I have some, well, a bit of bubbles, not really much, because this is past the bubbling stage really. So if you basically what you do, because obviously we need to create an environment where everything is submerged under brine. As you noticed, things floating up, that is okay. So what you're gonna do to keep it safe, yeah, because things that are exposed, like this leaf, exposed to oxygen, it might get mold on top, or maybe calm yeast or something unwanted. We don't want that, right? So if you don't have the weight, because when you put the weight, you're fine. You don't need to worry about anything. But without the weight, you're gonna have to open it daily. Yeah. Take a clean tablespoon, go find one, and press things down. Basically wash at least once a day, wash all the ingredients. Don't worry about the spices floating about, that's fine. With your brine. So even doing this once is enough. So you close it back again, leave it at room temperature. Fermentation, the word fermentation comes from the Latin word fervere. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, but that's irrelevant. Fervere in Latin means to boil. So, you know, when you have boiling pot with some water and you can see bubbles on top, this is exactly what you're going to see here, right? So we are depending on the temperature. Some places where it's really, really warm, you might see that already by the evening if you're making this in the morning. Or the next day within 24, basically within 24 hours, most probably you're going to see bubbles. And, you know, especially if you're pressing down with your tablespoon, you will see lots of bubbles rushing up. That's a sign, that's a good sign of fermentation happening. So what happens? Bacteria and other microorganisms, among other things, create lots of things, including CO2s. So that CO2 has specific, obviously, flavor, the smell, especially that we have a cabbage here, so it will be quite smelly, but that's normal. Plus, lactic acid bacteria that mainly are here, right? Lactic acid bacteria live on almost everything, and especially on the veg and fruit. So they will start creating acidity. Together with the bubbles, your ferment, because if you taste it now, it's just salty, sort of smelling a little bit of spices, but not that much, because they haven't been infused yet into the brine. You will taste acidity. So the minute that you have the bubbles, start tasting just a tiny bit, you know, the water. You should feel acidity. If acidity is there, everything is happening correctly, basically, yeah? Because this acidity, that's what's gonna keep killing pathogens. Because remember, this cabbage already has good bacteria and bad bacteria, right? So by creating this environment, we are warding off the bad guys and helping to propagate the good guys. So good guys are going to create this acidity, lactic acid. They will create lactic acid. And that lactic acid is going to acidify the whole thing here, the whole jar, that acidity is lethal, deadly to pathogens. So basically, if you correctly ferment whatever it is you're fermenting, this is safest food there is, yeah, because the safety mechanism is already inbuilt. So tomorrow, because today is morning for me, yeah. So tomorrow morning, passing by here, I'm going to check my my ferment. So obviously this is sticking out, so I'm going to take the tablespoon and press this down. Do I see bubbles? If I don't see bubbles, I just close this and leave it till tomorrow. If I see bubbles, yes, sometimes you will see bubbles as in the white foam forming on top. That is okay as well. In that case, you want to try just a little bit to make sure that the acidity is there. Again, you're closing everything and leaving till tomorrow, till the following day. Basically, once a day, you're pressing everything down and checking for bubbles. You will notice that here the liquid is transparent. Here is a bit murky, right? So basically, the brine itself will not be transparent anymore. Yeah, it will be like this, sort of murky. You are gonna have probably a couple of first days, you're gonna have a lot of activity, like lots of bubbles and whatnot. And then after a few days, depending on the temperature, so with temperature is the warmer it is, the faster everything happens, the colder it is, vice versa, right? So you might want, if it's cold, you like 20 degrees, for example, centigrades, you might be waiting for 2-3 days maybe for the bubbles to appear. If it's 30 or 25 plus, maybe tomorrow you're gonna have bubbles already, right? So at some point after a few days, the bubbles will subside and it will look like this, more or less sort of stable. So I would say, because this ferment, when you ferment it first time, it might take 1 or 2 weeks to get ready, depending on the temperature again, right? And depending on the ingredients that you put there. So I would say in 4 or 5 days, start tasting your vegetables. They should be crunchy. They should be salted through. They should be pleasant. Yeah, so basically pickles. When you feel like, well, this is actually ready, you can start eating your vegetables. While eating the vegetables, you can then reuse the brine, putting new vegetables in. I would suggest probably eating all the vegetables first and then putting new vegetables. The second and following times, the fermentation time will be quicker because the brine will act as a, brine is a fermented liquid full of probiotic bacteria and yeast, right, and other microorganisms. So it will act as a starter. So everything will happen much quicker. At some point, you will notice that within 1 day, maybe 12 hours, your veg is done. That's what the whole thing is about, right? This is why I actually started with a small amount, not a big jar. You can leave that jar at room temperature, but I would suggest leaving it somewhere in a cooler temperatures, especially if it's an ongoing ferment. Because at room temperature, especially if it's very warm, 25 plus centigrades, you will notice that vegetable ferment very quickly and the acidity is going to rise, and it will be very, very acidic, maybe unpleasantly so. To avoid that, either keep it in the fridge. In the fridge, obviously, like not the first batch though, yeah? The first batch should go through the fermentation at room temperature. Then later, when you fill this brine up with new vegetables for the second, third, and so on times, it can go in the fridge, but it will take obviously longer because the temperatures are really low. If you have somewhere like a cellar or something like that with like temperatures of 10, 12 degrees, that will be ideal for the second, third, and following batches. But first batch, always ferment at room temperature, and it's always the longest one. If you have any questions, do use direct message. Direct message me or ask me questions in the comments under this post. I'm checking the time. I will be probably during following week, I'm thinking, maybe 1.5 weeks. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to be showing the progress and explaining what is happening and showing you what is happening in the stories. So follow the stories, yeah? Make sure to watch them. I will probably leave all that in saved stories, like a little round things, where you can rewatch that. Yeah, so because obviously stories are gone in 24 hours, so you can leave it. So I'm probably gonna leave them in those stories where you can rewatch them over and over. So this is it. I'm actually going to probably try this one because it's going on for, oh no, not a week yet, but I can probably try. I have some peppers, like some sweet peppers here. Oh, I need a fork. Some sweet peppers here. Interesting. Very lovely. This is actually almost ready. Because obviously peppers are the sweetest one, the softest one, I mean. What else do I have there? Ooh, I have broccoli there as well. Obviously vegetables will change color. Yes, you can save it in highlights. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Janet. I will save it in highlights. Look at the broccoli and what becomes of it. It's very, very different. So I'm going to taste the broccoli. And it's just a tiny bit. Again, when this is ready, it will, only your taste buds will be able to determine that. This is still very sweet and nice. Press it down. It's very, very tasty. Probably in a couple of 2-3 days, I'm predicting this will be ready. So this is it. With this washer, when the active stage of fermentation is done, so all the bubbles are sort of subsided, you can start using the washer. I mean, you can do it right now, but thing is that the tighter the lid, the more bubbles will accumulate, the more basically when you open it, it might spit into your eye. It will just spitting about, which I don't really like. That's why a couple of first days I don't use the washer on my jar. So this is it. Hoping you can post it on your stories and tag me so I can repost it here. This is what we have done, and that's how pretty it is. Hopefully you have the same. And do share in the comments what sort of combination of vegetables did you use, so other people can come and read and maybe say, oh, I actually have those, let me do that, because they might not have the ones that I've got. Anyways, thank you very much, and I'm going to save this in the grid.